There are moments when a woman unknowingly gives away her worth without realizing the silent impact it leaves. What seems like affection, care, or effort sometimes turns into the very reason her value diminishes in a man's eyes. It isn't about perfection nor about pretending, but about recognizing the subtle mistakes that quietly eat away at respect and attraction. And once those are lost, it's almost impossible to regain them. These are the mistakes that can kill your value in front of a man. When you open your heart too quickly and pour every detail of your life into the conversation, it feels like you're giving away the very essence of who you are without letting him earn the right to know it. Mystery is not about playing games. It's about allowing things to unfold at the right pace. Imagine meeting someone new, and instead of slowly peeling back the layers, every story, every wound, every dream, every secret is laid on the table in the first moments. What could have taken weeks or months to discover, what could have kept his mind curious and engaged, suddenly disappears in a single conversation. He no longer has to wonder who you are because you've already told him everything. And in that moment, the intrigue dies. Men, like anyone else, value the process of discovery. They want to feel that each day reveals something new, that there's depth to explore, that they haven't yet reached the end of the book. But when you overshare, you rob him of that experience. Instead of building anticipation, instead of letting curiosity grow, you drown him in details he didn't even ask for. It's not connection, it's overload. And overload feels like pressure. It feels like you're forcing intimacy that hasn't been earned. The saddest part is that oversharing usually comes from a place of wanting closeness. You want him to know who you are. You want him to see your vulnerabilities. You want him to feel trusted. But instead of creating intimacy, it creates a sense that you are trying too hard. True connection doesn't need to be forced. It grows naturally when the timing is right. Think about how much more powerful it feels when someone reveals a part of themselves after trust has already been built. It lands deeper. It feels more meaningful. It becomes something worth cherishing. Holding back doesn't mean hiding who you are. It means pacing it. It means recognizing that not every chapter of your life story needs to be read aloud on the first page. It means understanding that curiosity is a form of power. And when you protect that power, your value remains intact. Mystery is not manipulation. It is respect for your own story. And when you honor your story enough to reveal it slowly, he will value every piece of it so much more. When you are always available, no matter the time, no matter the place, it might feel like love and dedication, but in reality it starts to erode the very sense of value you carry. Human nature leans toward taking for granted what is constantly present. The same way you stop noticing the air you breathe until it is gone, your constant presence begins to lose its charm. When you never say no, when you are always ready to adjust, cancel, or rearrange your life for him, you communicate without words that your world revolves around his needs. At first, he might enjoy the attention, but over time it makes him assume your presence is guaranteed, and whatever is guaranteed loses its magic. Desire is built on a sense of rarity. Think about why people chase after what is scarce: diamonds, gold, limited opportunities. Scarcity creates a natural sense of importance. When you allow yourself to be endlessly available, you remove that scarcity, and with it, the sense of privilege he feels to have your time. What was once exciting becomes ordinary. What was once special becomes routine. And routine is the enemy of attraction. It isn't about ignoring him or playing hard to get. It's about honoring your own life outside of him. When you invest in your passions, your career, your friendships, your self-care, you send a clear message that your time is valuable, and valuable time demands respect. When he sees that you are not someone who can be reached at every moment, he begins to appreciate the moments he does get with you. Those moments become intentional, meaningful, and treasured rather than overlooked. The truth is, constant availability often comes from fear. The fear of losing him, the fear that if you're not always there, his interest will fade. But the reality is the opposite. Attraction thrives when there is balance, when he sees that you have a life that doesn't revolve around him. It builds respect. It builds admiration. It makes him want to step up and earn his place in your world instead of assuming it. By creating space, you give him room to miss you, to wonder about you, to think about you when you're not there. That longing is what keeps value alive. It's not distance for the sake of distance. It's space that preserves respect. And respect is the soil where attraction grows. When you start seeking validation at every step, you unknowingly place your worth in someone else's hands. The constant need to hear that you are beautiful, that you are enough, that you are loved, begins to wear thin. At first, he might reassure you, he might give you the words you want to hear, but over time it feels like a burden. It shifts from being a sweet exchange to an endless demand for proof. Validation, when asked for too often, begins to sound like a cry of insecurity, and insecurity dulls attraction faster than anything else. There is nothing more magnetic than a woman who knows her own value, who doesn't need to be told she is enough in order to believe it. When you lean too heavily on his approval, you create a silent imbalance. You place yourself beneath him as though his opinion carries more weight than your own self-belief. That dynamic erodes respect. He no longer sees you as confident and self-assured, but as someone constantly searching for reassurance to feel stable. And once he senses that imbalance, the natural admiration he may have felt for you begins to weaken. It's important to understand that attraction is not only about looks or charm. It's about energy. The energy of someone who walks into a room confident, secure, and radiant is irresistible. On the other hand, the energy of someone who is quietly begging for validation feels heavy, draining, and unsteady. Confidence says, "I know who I am," while neediness whispers, "Please tell me I am enough." One draws him closer, the other pushes him away. Ironically, the more you look to him for validation, the less he feels compelled to give it. The compliments you once cherished begin to sound forced, and his desire to uplift you diminishes because it feels like no amount of words will ever be enough. True value is preserved when you validate yourself first, when you look in the mirror and believe in your worth without waiting for anyone else to confirm it. Validation from him should be a bonus, not a lifeline. When you stand firm in your confidence, his compliments become sweeter because they are not filling a void. They are simply adding to an already strong foundation. That balance keeps attraction alive because nothing is more appealing than someone who doesn't just know their value, but embodies it in every action, every word, and every silence. When you start neglecting your own growth, your dreams, and your passions, and instead pour all of your energy into him, you silently hand over your value piece by piece. At first, it might look like devotion, like selflessness, like proof of your care. But soon it begins to feel like you have no direction of your own, no path that is separate from his. Attraction doesn't come from losing yourself in someone else. It comes from the balance of two complete individuals walking side by side. The moment your life begins to orbit entirely around him, the admiration he once felt starts to fade. Think about what first draws someone in. It's often your ambition, your spark, your independence, your ability to stand strong in who you are. Those qualities inspire respect. But when you abandon them and focus only on being what you think he wants, you strip away the very things that made you stand out. What was once inspiring becomes ordinary. What was once magnetic becomes predictable. And predictability rarely sustains desire. A woman who grows, who invests in herself, who is curious about life, creates a natural pull. She shows that her world is bigger than one relationship, that she brings value not only through her love, but through her evolving self. When you neglect that growth, you unintentionally communicate that you are dependent on him for fulfillment. Dependence might feel like closeness, but in reality, it chips away at respect. Over time, he no longer sees you as a partner to admire, but as someone who looks to him to provide meaning. This doesn't mean ignoring love or avoiding care. It means remembering that your goals, your hobbies, your passions, and your self-development are not extras. They are essentials. They are the very pillars that keep your sense of worth strong. A woman who continues to grow is never boring, never stagnant, never overlooked. She remains someone who challenges, who inspires, who surprises, and that makes her value undeniable. When you honor your own journey, you also set the tone for how he treats you. You show him that you are not someone who disappears into his shadow, but someone who stands firmly in her own light. And nothing keeps respect alive more than a person who refuses to dim themselves for the sake of another. Growth is not selfish. It is the very act that keeps your value alive in his eyes, and more importantly, in your own. When you allow disrespect to slide, even in its smallest form, you begin to signal that your boundaries are fragile, that your worth is negotiable. At first, it may seem harmless to laugh it off, to ignore the subtle comments, or to excuse the behavior with reasons like, maybe he's just tired, or I didn't mean it. But every time you dismiss disrespect, you teach him how to treat you. What begins as a single overlooked remark slowly builds into a pattern, and soon the standard you set for yourself is one of tolerance rather than dignity. Respect is not something that is demanded with force. It is maintained with consistency. When you show that you are unwilling to accept behavior that demeans you, you elevate your value instantly. But when you choose silence, hoping to keep the peace or avoid conflict, you unknowingly shrink yourself in his eyes. He sees that your self-respect is negotiable, and anything that is negotiable becomes easy to take for granted. The truth is, a man will only rise to the level that you require. If you show that your boundaries can be crossed without consequence, he will continue to test them until respect disappears altogether. It's important to understand that disrespect is not always loud. It can be quiet, subtle, and disguised as humor or carelessness. A dismissive tone, ignoring your opinions, making you feel less important, forgetting commitments. These are not small oversights, they are signals. And the way you respond determines whether those signals grow louder or stop immediately. Every time you allow yourself to be treated with less value than you deserve, you reinforce the idea that such treatment is acceptable. On the other hand, when you set clear boundaries, when you speak with confidence and remove yourself from situations where you are not respected, you radiate strength. That strength demands attention. It sends the message that your presence is a privilege, not a right to be misused. And the right man, the one who truly sees your worth, will respect you more for it, not less. Value is deeply tied to self-respect. You cannot expect someone else to honor what you do not honor yourself. By refusing to tolerate disrespect in any form, you protect not only your dignity, but also the foundation of the relationship. Because once respect is lost, love cannot survive, and attraction cannot thrive. Boundaries are not walls, they are the lines that preserve your worth. When you begin to compare yourself to others, you unknowingly place yourself in a race that doesn't even exist. Each time you measure your beauty, your achievements, or your qualities against another woman, you whisper a message of doubt, not only to yourself, but also to him. It tells him that you don't truly believe in your own uniqueness, that you need to find your value in how you stack up against someone else. At first, he may reassure you, reminding you of your worth, telling you that you are enough. But over time, constant comparison drains the energy of the connection, turning admiration into exhaustion. Comparison strips away confidence in subtle ways. Instead of walking into a room with certainty, you walk in with questions in your head. Am I as attractive as her? Am I as successful? Does he notice what she has that I don't? Those questions eat away at your presence, making you seem distracted, unsettled, and insecure. And nothing weakens value in someone's eyes faster than insecurity displayed again and again. Confidence is what holds attention, insecurity releases it. What makes you valuable is not what someone else has or doesn't have. It is the irreplaceable blend of your energy, your mind, your laughter, your perspective. When you forget that and start chasing validation through comparison, you lose the very essence of what makes you magnetic. No one wants to feel like they constantly have to compete with ghosts you create in your own mind. He doesn't need to see you against others. He needs to see you standing in your own light. Ironically, comparison often stems from the illusion that others have something you lack. But what he truly values is not perfection, it is authenticity. The quiet confidence of a woman who embraces her flaws, who knows she is enough, who doesn't flinch when others shine, is far more attractive than the insecurity of someone always feeling second best. When you accept yourself fully, You give him permission to admire you without resistance. Your power lies in knowing that no one can duplicate who you are. By stepping out of comparison and standing firm in your individuality, you radiate certainty, and certainty is irresistible. When you stop competing with others, you stop diminishing your value. Instead, you embody it, and that is what keeps respect and attraction alive. Value isn't something you beg for, it's something you embody. Every action, every boundary, every choice either strengthens or weakens how you are seen. When you overshare, when you are always available, when you chase validation, when you abandon your own growth, when you tolerate disrespect, or when you compare yourself to others, you slowly strip away the respect that attraction needs to survive. But when you move with self-awareness, when you protect your mystery, honor your time, carry your confidence, nurture your growth, demand respect, and stand firm in your uniqueness, you don't just hold your value, you elevate it. The truth is simple. The moment you recognize that your worth is not negotiable, you become unforgettable. And the kind of woman who is unforgettable never has to chase respect because it follows her everywhere she goes.